This is a journey into sound. A journey which along the way will bring to you new color, new dimension, new values, and a new experience.
Welcome to the G-Spot Podcast. I'm your guide, Katie Silcox, bringing you your weekly self-love soundbite. Join us for conversations around sex, spirit, and all things self-care. All things self-care. All things self-care.
This is a journey into sound.
Uno, dos, tres, cuatro.
You are a G-Spot Podcast with Katie Silcox.
Baby. It is the G-Spot. It is February. It is kapha season coming up, you guys. Next episode, we're going to be talking about how you can stay balanced in this season of all things wet. Let's celebrate that. If you listened to my last episode on hydration, it's going to come. The waters are flowing. And we want to make sure that we really promote that in the most healthy way possible. This episode is brought to you by Banyan Botanicals. We are getting 15% off, you guys, on their Nasya oil, which is an awesome herbal medicated oil. And you can get that by visiting banyanbotanicals.com/Katie, and we'll always put that link in the show notes for you. This episode is also sponsored by our girls over at Apothecary, a boutique apothecary based near us on the East Coast in DC, offering Ayurveda-inspired herbs and blends. This week, we're featuring their Seal the Deal aphrodisiac blend because it is the month of love. It is full of great adaptogens and natural energy boosters, some great phytoestrogens like maca and acai berry, ashwagandha, and other great herbs. You can use the promo code GSPOT10 to get 10% off your entire order. And as always, link in the show notes. All right. What are we talking about today? Today we're talking about feminine form medicine. And I want to just start by saying, whenever you get into the dichotomy of feminine masculine, it brings up a lot of gray area because, nothing in nature is totally white or totally black or totally day or totally night. These absolutes don't exist. And that's why when you look at the yin-yang symbol, you see that in the darkness, there's a dot of light. And then the light, there's a dot of dark. It's such an incredible teaching in that symbol. Same with day and night. There's not a moment where you're like, this is definitively day, because it's always slowly shifting. Similarly with the nighttime, as it reaches its peak of nightness, it already is starting to move towards daylight. It's the same thing with this feminine masculine paradigm. And so we don't need to be afraid of it, but we also don't need to overly tie reality to it. These methods of yin-yang, masculine, feminine, are really useful, really useful in being able to understand reality and being able to do what we need to do to take stock of our own experience and to become more balanced and more importantly, to be able to play, to be able to do what we want and to be able to experience what we want and manifest what we want and magnetize what we want. I don't know about you, but one of my goals is to be healthy. And it's not something that's come super easy for me. I have a friend and, she just never really struggled with her health. And, the other day she was saying to me, you know what? I'm really gonna, I went to the dentist and I found out I had 6 cavities. And I can't believe it. And I'm just gonna really dedicate myself to my health right now. And I was just like, that's awesome. And then at the same time, I was thinking, wow, this woman who's almost 40, the first time she's really taken her health like into deep seriousness is these cavities. And I thought, wow, what a different journey. For me, my health is something that I've been working with since I was 9 years old. So it's something I think about a lot. It's something I know that the divine has placed in my life as an obstacle for me to be able to learn compassion for myself and to be able to be a great support for other people. And that might be your journey too. If you're listening to the Ghee Spot, we tend to attract people that are on a healing journey. What does that have to do with feminine form, masculine form medicine? Well, I've always been really interested in health, and like you, probably growing up in an environment that had a certain thing to say about health. And what I learned was that, if something's wrong, we need to fix it by determining exactly what it is that's wrong, most often related to the symptom. And then we're going to find the remedy. And so this is an awesome paradigm. So I want everyone out there listening, especially if you're a doctor, a nurse, somebody working in the Western medical system, we love you. We love you so much. Thank you so much. Because sometimes that ability to go for the symptom and annihilate it, to go for the cancer and cut it out, right? If you break your arm, as I always say, do not go to an Ayurvedic practitioner. And honestly, if you have the manifestation of disease, we're not going to be going to the Ayurvedic practitioner or the Ayurvedic health coach. That's just not what they're for, especially at least in the West. So there's a great advantage to this Western system of allopathic medicine where we go for the symptom, we try to fix what's wrong, or we try to understand deeper into the root of the symptom. But often in medicine, we do it from a very distinct perspective that is not a holistic one. If you've got something wrong with your heart, let's go to your heart. If you've got something wrong with your brain, let's go to your brain. If you've got something, if you're obese, let's go just get you on a diet plan, and this is not a holistic way of seeing reality. This is what I call masculine form medicine. And again, not good or bad. Why we put so much emphasis on feminine form medicine here at Shakti School is not because it's better, but it's because it's so deeply lacking in our consciousness, in our collective psyche, and in our institutions and in our daily self-care practices. So what is feminine form medicine? Feminine form medicine says that disease forms within the greater field of your body. Imagine your body is this beautiful field, and you get this really gnarly, ugly weed that starts to come up, and that weed, that could be something good for the field, in the right amounts, at the right time, in the right season. That weed starts to take over. And now that weed starts to strangle out other plants and nutrients that the soil needs and that the plants that the animals in that area need. And now you start to see imbalance. The plants can't grow. The animals start to decrease their numbers. All of these things are very, very common. And what do? We go and we take an herbal or non-herbal, even worse, weed killer, and we just kill that weed and we burn that weed. We annihilate that weed. And again, that might be a solution, certainly a short-term solution, and sometimes a necessary one. But what we didn't take into account is that field that the weed is growing in. That field in this metaphor is your body. Your body is this vast, beautiful field. And there are lots and lots and millions and trillions of different microorganisms growing in that field. And so rather than worry about your candida, for example, or your fungal overgrowth, or even the fact that you may be carrying too much body fat or not enough, what Ayurveda says is, the feminine form of Ayurveda says is, let's consider what field all of this is unfolding in. And what do we have to do? Well, the feminine is complicated. I don't know if you're a woman out there or a feminine identifying creature, and the men out there might be able to say yes to this as well. Women are complicated. The feminine is complicated. The field is infinitely complex because nature is infinitely complex and infinitely intelligent beyond what you and I can even understand with our thinking mind. So when we consider ourselves from the feminine form perspective, what we have to think about is, what is the field? And if you do Ayurveda school, what we're learning in level 1 and level 2 is there's 200 data points or more that we consider. And even that's not enough, right? But it's the best we can do, to consider when considering the field of someone. It's not important to me as much, it's mildly important, the exact hormone levels that you have, or the exact outline of every microorganism in your gut flora and fauna. That's important. And those tests can be really useful to give you a snapshot of the field at one moment in time. But what's more important is, what's your life like? How much stress are you under? How does your heart feel? Have you undergone a heartbreak? Did you lose somebody in your life? Do you feel like your life has meaning and purpose? What's your daily routine like? Do you feel connected to your community? And that's just the surface. What was your childhood like? What were your original mirrors of the divine feminine and masculine in your mother and father? Did you have a mother and father? What was your early relationship to your body, which is the field? The field is not only the physical. What is the state of your emotions and your mind? How's your sleep? And on and on and on I could go. That is the field. And one of the best ways that we can contact the field's health, guys, is not only the mental emotional realm, but the intuitive realm. I had a close friend who had some fertility issues. She wasn't getting her period very regularly, and sometimes for months and months at a time. And this person, such a beautiful light, she made herself an expert in the field of hormones. She learned everything she could learn about Western medicine and Chinese medicine and Ayurvedic medicine and naturopathy and homeopathy and nutrition. She read every book and every website. She even started doing all the things. She took all the supplements. And those things helped a little bit, but they didn't get to the root. And then one day she was, I don't need to go into her personal life, but let's just say one day someone said to her, hey, there was a moment when you were around 7 years old where something happened. An intuitive. And indeed, at 7 years of age, she had a very, very tender and traumatic experience. And that experience had been forming her relationship to her body and the outside world ever since. Now we're talking about feminine form medicine. You may think of it as magic or mysticism, but it's not. We only call things magical until we understand how they work. I'm, as you guys know, just so in love with the system of Ayurveda, less for its clinical applications and its allopathic applications and the way it's being used in hospitals and clinics in India, although I think that's so wonderful. But what I'm more in love with is what Ayurveda offers in its feminine form. Ayurveda in India, we can see as feminine form and masculine form as well. And again, neither good nor bad, better or worse. But the feminine doesn't get a lot of press or a lot of attention or a lot of money, it seems. So the masculine says, you have a problem. Let me check your dosha. Okay, your Vikruti's this. All right, eat this diet and take this herb. That is very, very similar to what a Western doctor would do with you. There's almost no differentiation. And indeed, if we look at the history of India, quite sad, there was this incredible system of masculine and feminine form Ayurveda in India. Now, let me just say what the feminine form would look like. The feminine form, and by the way, statistically speaking, masculine form Ayurvedic doctors in India are by and large men. And then the people doing the treatments are by and large women. So if you go to a mini Panchakarma centers, the doctor will be a male and the ones putting their hands on you will be a female. And again, neither good nor bad. It just shows us something about the yin and the yang. In India, the feminine form medicine, which holds equal, if not even more value because of its scarcity. But the feminine form medicine, and I'm speaking of India because Ayurveda is what I studied, but you can find this in the United States, in every tradition. You can find this in all traditions. The feminine form is the feminine by the bedside putting her hands on your body. It's ministering. It's ministry. It's the feminine anointing the feet with oils. It's the feminine taking the newborn baby and massaging it every day, as well as the new mother. It's the feminine of my grandmother making biscuits and soups when you don't feel good, right? It doesn't matter if the biscuits are good for you or not. It's that she made them with her whole heart. It's all the women's in kitchens and bedrooms and hospital nurses that may be ministering in a way that is completely unrelated to the drugs that they're giving you or the surgery. It's the look in someone's eyes, male or female, when they look at you and they say, you know what, kiddo, you're going to be okay. That's feminine form medicine. And men can carry it and women can carry it, you guys. But women have been the carriers and firekeepers of this medicine since time immemorial. Unfortunately, in India, when the British took over, there was a campaign to devalue Ayurvedic medicine. It was seen as heathen medicine. And this enculturation of that seeped its way, conscious or unconsciously, into the collective consciousness in India at that time. And so if you wanted to be within the power structure, you had to devalue Ayurvedic medicine as heathen medicine or shamanic medicine. And of course, Western medicine was valued. And that belief system became so ingrained in India that it still exists there now. If you want to be a doctor in India, you go and try to become an allopathic or Western doctor. And I learned from Dr. Frawley David Frawley, that if in India you don't get into medical school, you go and you get into Ayurveda school. It's like the secondary choice. So that says something to us about even how in India Ayurveda is seen and valued, where it's probably valued more than anywhere in the world. So this paradigm is not unique to India. This is everywhere. In the United States, if you get into medical school in your family, you're seen in the light of power and accomplishment and success. If you get into Ayurvedic health coaching, your parents are probably like, what? Can you do something with that? Is that a thing? What is that? New age witchy medicine. And it just shows us how devalued this life wisdom is. And it's so sad, because what we're now seeing clinically and scientifically, not that we have to prove everything, is that Ayurveda indeed, as well as basic nutrition, hydration, light therapy, all the things that we're all interested in this kind of fringer world, are changing people's bodies and lives. That's why billions of dollars every year is spent on supplements and yoga classes and acupuncture and bulletproof coffee and Juve lights and all these things that we're buying, you guys. We're doing this because we realize our health does not come from the system that we currently have. So, Ayurveda was largely an oral tradition. And then the Charaka Samhita, which is largely considered the canon of Ayurvedic, actually comes very late in the history of Ayurvedic medicine. It was written around 800 to 400 AD. And so we get this development long ago. It just shows us how old Ayurveda is. And then yogic medicine, as I said, were taken over by allopathic doctors. And even in the 60s and 70s, the older Indian gurus that we see coming out didn't even have Ayurveda or practice it. And that's this, Maharishi who came to the United States and others who have popularized Ayurveda. If you look at that, it didn't happen until around the 70s and 80s. Frawley says that a healthy culture needs a healthy medical system, and he goes on to suggest that one of the best ways to control a society is to control their medicine system. And that makes sense, because if I think that my healthcare is in the hands of the government or my employee, the likelihood that I'm going to leave that job is very low. And that's currently the situation in the United States. So I talk about in Ayurveda school the history of Ayurveda. And luckily, when the British were kicked out of India, Ayurveda experienced a renaissance. And I believe it's undergoing a renaissance now. But this renaissance must take into account the HERstory of Ayurveda. Because of India's caste and cultural system, while women were practicing Ayurveda in terms of plants and preparation and birthing, men maintained control over Ayurveda and especially the codification of Ayurveda. Again, this was particularly worsened, as I said, with the British, but now we're still seeing the vestige of this. And what does this mean? It's not to blame men. We love men so hard over here at Shakti School. I mean, my God, nobody loves men more than Bunny Silcox. But what we have to be bold about stating is that we have to step into the revelation that we have a role to play here. We have a voice here. And what the voice of so many of us are saying is that the spirit and intuition and ministering has to be brought back into our medical system if we're going to be whole. The history of Ayurveda from India is about 500 years long. The HERstory of Ayurveda is as old as the first time a human mother found a plant to heal her baby or her own womb. The truer origin story of not just Ayurveda, you guys, but of the whole medicine story of women is the story of women's blood. Our menstrual cycle created this medical culture. And it's not even Indian. It's as old as human beings contemplating their mother. And who is that? Their mother nature, the mother that is our body, and the bigger mother that is the divine. So what does that look like for you today, right now in your life? Continue to try to find the remedies to help your body become a healthier place. Continue to attempt to root out what is wrong and pull out those roots. But more importantly, consider your family history. Consider your emotional state. Consider the moments in your life that were pivotal, that formed how you love or don't love yourself. Consider the ways in which your attachment systems matter. How are you attached to mom and dad? How are you currently attached to the people in your life? Is it anxious? Is it avoidant? Is it balanced? How is your relationship to your community and the divine? Do you have a daily spiritual practice that fills you with juiciness and sweetness? Consider if there's a lack of sweetness and connection in your life. How much are you outside on this planet? How much are your hands reaching into the dirt? How much are you walking in light, actual human sunlight? How much are you in moonlight? How much are you bathing in the moon? All of these bigger things that may seem insignificant are the hallmarks of a healthy relationship to the field. To the field. And the field is your body, but the field is also the infinite cosmos. And the story of you as a soul on a soul journey. I am so happy to be a part of this revolution of what I call feminine form medicine. I'm not the only one. There's so many of us out there howling at the moon and preaching and getting up on our feminine form soapboxes. And I hope this has inspired you to take considerations of your own relationship to the divine feminine within and to boldly step into your sovereignty as a carrier of this very important holistic medicine. I hope to see you in Shakti School. If you're not a member of Ayurveda School, we start a new course, but it's not until January. But a great way to stay connected is this other platform we have called the Lineage of Love. And I know all of our listeners know about the Lineage of Love. We've got a link for you guys in the show notes if you don't. All right, beauties, I hope you have a wonderful February day. And we'll be back next week with a podcast on healthy kapha.
Pote phulla pon sukhe pote phulla